People, are you guys here? There's a lot of like crazy internet problems going on right now. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello. Alright, you guys gotta, this is crazy. I was literally about to give you guys this text from my phone. Let me show you. I was about to cancel class, people. I was about to cancel class. Like, my internet was out from 8 to like 8:50, and I was waiting for like it to come back by 8:50. I was like, alright, I'll check one more time, refresh everything, and it's here. But like in the last 10 minutes when I like start the stream and everything, like kind of go through the procedures, there's been like a lot of weird stuff happening. So like hopefully it stays afloat. I thought for sure we were not gonna have class today. I'm not gonna lie. Some of you guys are probably disappointed by that, but yeah, I was gonna send you like sorry guys, I don't have internet, I don't know what to do, I can't do anything about it, you know, because I think there was crazy windstorms, and yeah, the outage map says it wasn't gonna come back till 9 a.m. Central Time, so that'd be 10 o'clock. That'd be obviously after class. Can we still cancel? I don't know. People, I'm sure that day will come, if not today, because like they probably just fixed it, and they might like reboot it again, right? My OBS like just crashed for like a second, right when it hit 9 o'clock. It's not. You can still cancel, Mr. Moore, please. No, people, we'll have to cancel for real one day, I'm sure. But I haven't had to cancel a class since the first day of school. It was the first hour actually. That's the only time I ever had issues, and I drove into school on the first day. After that, kind of in a panic, and it's been smooth ever since. So, besides this morning was insane. It was hectic, but I think we're ready to go. I think we got everything going. Sorry if you wanted to sleep in. See, I'm kind of like behind a little bit, trying to get things ready, but and honestly, we're not going to do a whole lot today. We're just going to talk about elasticity of demand. It's not going to be too outrageous, too difficult, and then no new problem set today. I will not give you a new problem set today. Today, afterwards, will be, you know, catch-up day on your problem sets. Problem set 1.5 for sure, right? Only 5 of us have turned it in out of 22, right? So that's due tonight. So I'll give you guys time to do 1.5 after the notes, and then the rest of the week looks like this. The rest of the week is tomorrow. We're going to learn about price controls. So we're going to put a government control into our supply and demand graph, and then see what's going to happen as a result of it. Is it good or is it bad, and why would the government ever try to control prices? And then Wednesday, I'm going to release the supply and demand quiz. I might do it tomorrow, but you guys are going to get your supply and demand quiz on GoFormative. We're going to use GoFormative, and I'll give you guys the join code and all that. Maybe we'll make it today after the notes. And you guys will take a supply and demand quiz online. And obviously, you know, it's open note, and you'll have a good amount of time to complete it, right? I'll give you a 4-day span to go on there and complete it at your own time. You know, some of you guys can probably do it during the Google Meet times and whatnot, but that's going to be how you're going to be assessed this time around on supply and demand concepts. And then Wednesday, we're going to start learning about market structures. And Wednesday will sort of be a, you know, content day. I'll teach you guys about the 4 market structures, and then Thursday and Friday, you guys are going to be making your own research projects along with market structures. And it sounds hard. It's really, really easy. And that's probably going to carry on to next week, because we only have class, I think, Monday and Tuesday next week. I think that's it. So we're kind of nearing the end already. I feel like you guys just came back of the second rotation. So, you know, if we can finish up Unit 2, how markets work, in this rotation, I think it's pretty good. I think we've done a lot. This is definitely by far the hardest unit for econ students. All right, so, am I freezing again, people? Oh no. Oh no. Internet is not good. Uh-oh. You guys still here? Because on my end it's bugging out like crazy. I don't know if it is for you. back, people. Come back. Come back. Where are you? You guys are still here, really? Are you guys having to refresh the stream or no? And don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. We're not canceling class. All right, we're gonna keep going. If it gets like really insane, then we'll figure something out. But you were learning for a while, it lagged, yeah. I don't know. It's weird. All right, people. Here's your question of the day. If we can accomplish anything, hopefully it's your question of the day. All right. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Oh no. All right, here's your question of the day, though, people. If you could be guaranteed one thing in life besides money, what would it be? Yeah, you might have to keep like refreshing. I think over time though, it's gonna keep going away. Good luck. It's looking good now. It's looking good now, people. We're on a roll here. Hasn't lagged in a while. We're doing fine. We're doing fine. If you could be guaranteed one thing in life, what would it be if it's not money? So Erwin says good luck. He wants to have good luck. Alright. Aiden says a nice house. Hey people, I got a nice house. I got a nice house here. It's in LA. Food. Guaranteed food. Okay. Like good food. Disney World. You're guaranteed to go to Disney World. Alright, fame. Winning lotto ticket. Coffee. Happiness. Fame, financial stability, that is money, and happiness. Your Xbox, did you get the new one, Jessica? Did you get the new Xbox? Did you get the new Xbox, people? Does anybody have the new PlayStation 5 as well? They're really, really hard to get. I heard you just gotta like wait at Walmart like all day to hopefully get one. Kind of says success. I'm trying to think of mine. I could be guaranteed one thing other than money. What would it be? Oops. I would say health of my friends and family to be good. Health of my friends and family to be good. That's what I would say. Is it lagging? What do you mean? No. Not yet. What do you mean not yet? Success 2. Oh, you don't have it yet. You don't have the Xbox yet. To be the luckiest person. People, luck takes preparation and hard work. Therefore, I'm stable but no money. I wish. Alright, you guys all get a response in here before we lag out forever? Hey, we got William in the house. What's up, William? I've missed you, William. William is back, people. We love to see that. I wish. Happiness so I can win the lottery. People, if you just take this econ knowledge, you'll get everything that you need in life. Trust me. Actually, I cannot make that, yeah, promise. Alright, anyway. Moving on, people. Let's get to what we got to do today. Because at any given moment now, the internet might collapse. So, you know, we're doing it. We're doing it, people. We're doing it. Alright, so today we're talking about elasticity, people. It sounds really complex. It sounds really scary. It's not. All we're going to simply do is we're going to change the demand curve, the slope of it, right? Either make it, you know, instead of like perfectly like, you know, a slope of 1, we're going to make it steep and we're going to make it shallow. And we're going to see, you know, what would that look like? Like, why would a demand curve look differently for one good opposed to another good? And what's the ramifications of you know, elasticity, right? Like your demand curve sloping, you know, more so steep or more so shallow. All right? So we know this, people, right? The law of demand, right? Going back to last week, the law of demand states that when price decreases, people tend to buy more, right? And if price increases, people tend to buy less things, right? That's the law of demand. What we're going to explore today is elasticity of demand. And that's going to be, if price goes down, how much more will people buy, right? Will people buy a little bit more if price goes down, or will they buy a lot more if price goes down? If price goes up, alternatively, will people buy a little bit less or a lot less, right? That's what elasticity is, right? We know the law of demand is going to occur, but to what extent, right? Are people going to be very sensitive, very responsive to a change in price? Or if price changes, they're going to be, a little bit responsive to a change in price, right? We know that all goods are not the same. So what we're going to do today is identify whether a good is elastic or inelastic by calculating the elasticity of demand coefficient. Again, it sounds really hard, and some of you guys are like, oh my gosh, Mr. Moore, coefficient, that sounds like math, and I'm not here to take math, all right? Don't worry, it's not that hard. Okay, I got you, all right? So what I just said, right? I said the law of demand says, because we're only going to be looking at elasticity of demand. We're not going to look at elasticity of supply, people, all right? So we're just focused on demand. So again, the law of demand says when price goes up, people buy less. When price goes down, people buy more. Elasticity of demand is how much more or how much less will consumers buy, right? So the reason it matters, here's what elasticity of demand is, how responsive, how sensitive consumers are to a change in price, right? Again, if price goes up, right, are people going to buy a little bit less or a lot less, right? How responsive will they be to that change in price? So it's a big deal, right? Because the first reason is it is used by firms, it is used by businesses to determine pricing strategies, right? So, for example, if they know that they can increase the price and the percent change in price is going to be greater than the percent change in quantity, right? They're going to make more revenue. They're going to make more money, right? Generally it's going to be goods that are inelastic. It's like oil, right? Like gas, right? Like if a gas station increases the price of gasoline by like 50%, the law of demand is still going to occur. I'm sure people are going to buy less, but the change in quantity demand is going to be less than that change in price. If they increase the price of gasoline by 50% and people only buy 10% less, that means they're going to make more money. Even though people are buying less, the change in price is greater than that change in willingness and ability to buy, quantity demanded. So, if you're, getting into business, elasticity is very, very important to identify what is the elasticity of demand for your product. Because again, alternatively, right, if you increase the price 50% and people buy 100% less, right, you're gonna make less money, right? If the change in price is less than that change in quantity demanded, you're going to make less revenue, right? So it's very, very important for business to identify what is the elasticity of demand for their good. And then secondly, it's used by the government to decide which goods to tax, right? So government is going to seek to tax goods that are very inelastic in nature, right? Generally goods that are harmful to the public, right, socially, right? So like cigarettes, for example, are inelastic in nature and goods that the government's going to try to tax. And the reason is the government doesn't want to completely eradicate a business. The government doesn't want to tax a business and that business to go out of business, right? The shut down. So again, if you tax cigarettes, right, so people got to pay $1 more for a box of cigarettes, right? They're still going to pay that, right? Because they have inelastic demand. I mean, like they're like addicted to cigarettes, right? So the change in price will change a lot, and people will start to buy a little bit less, but the change in quantity is going to be less than that change in price. So it's not going to totally affect cigarette producers, right? It's going to cut down a little bit on sales, right? But people are still going to buy those cigarettes, and all the meanwhile, government's going to be able to have a means for collecting revenue, right? And be able to use that revenue, that tax revenue, to provide roads and bridges and schools and national defense and other things. Other public goods in a developed country. So, it's very important, right? Businesses need to know if their good is elastic or inelastic. So if they raise the price, what's going to happen to revenue? And then government needs to know, is this good inelastic or elastic? If we tax it, are we going to be able to collect tax revenue? Are people still going to buy it anyway? Or are they going to completely stop buying it and the business is going to go out of business and there's going to be no good to therefore tax? So it is super, super important. All right, so we're going to talk about inelastic demand first. Inelastic demand first. So again, elastic means how sensitive or how responsive consumers are to a change in price. So inelastic demand means consumers are insensitive. They're unresponsive. Like they don't really much care if price changes. Right? That's the idea of inelastic demand. Your willingness and ability to buy this product, if price changes, it's not going to affect your consumer behavior whatsoever, right? So like here's this lady, right? She's shopping to get milk, and at 50 cents she buys what, 5 units in total of milk, and then price goes up a lot to 240. That's a huge percent change in price from 80 cents to 240. And notice, the law of demand still occurs, right? She buys one less milk, right? But again, she has inelastic demand. She went from 5 units at 50 cents total, and then price went up a lot more from 80 cents to $2.40, and she only bought one less unit of milk. That was it, right? She was pretty unresponsive to that change in price. She's not happy, of course, by paying the higher price, but she needs milk, right? She needs milk for cooking, or, I don't know, right? Whatever the case is, but like her demand has barely changed. Her quantity demand has barely changed, even though price has increased a lot. She was unresponsive to that change in price. There's a cool scene from Jurassic Park, and but we're not going to show it. Okay, so inelastic demand means insensitive to a change in price. Quantity is unresponsive. Quantity demand is unresponsive, insensitive to a change in price. Price changes, and people are like, you know what? I'm still pretty much going to buy the same amount, maybe just a little bit less. So if price increases, quantity demand is going to fall just a little bit, right? Again, it's like the price of gasoline, right? Half of us don't even look at the price of gasoline when we fill up at the pump, right? Like at least I don't. Like when I'm on E, I go to the nearest gas station, I hit unleaded, fill it up, and that's the end of it, right? I don't look at the price because it's not gonna change my consumer behavior, right? I need gasoline. There's no substitute for gasoline. I need to buy it anyway. If price goes up, I'm still gonna pretty much buy the same amount of quantity, right? That's the idea. Myself in that scenario, right? I'm very unresponsive to a change in price. If price goes down for gasoline, even then, right? Are you really gonna get more gasoline? No, right? If the price of gasoline goes from like $2 to $1.50, I'm not gonna buy a whole bunch of quantities and like store it in my garage. I'm just gonna fill up my Jeep and be on my way. So again, even if price goes down, my willingness and ability to buy really won't change that much. It might increase maybe just a little bit. I'll really make sure I like fill it all the way up instead of just put like 3/4 in, right? So that's the idea of inelastic demand. People, their quantity demanded, their willingness and ability to buy doesn't really change when price changes. So an inelastic demand curve is going to look very, very steep. And a way to remember it, it's going to look like an I. Right? It's very, very steep. And the reason is, right, say price goes up from P to PT, right? You see how this is like a pretty big change in price? If we move along our demand curve, right, the quantity demand is going to be a little bit less, right? Price increases from P to PT, so we go from quantity from Q to QT, right? Quantity just dips a little bit, right? So an inelastic demand curve is one that's generally going to look pretty steep, right? Because price changes and people are going to be a little bit more or less responsive, or they're going to be less responsive to a change in price. They're either going to buy a little bit more or a little bit less, right? Based on, if price increases or decreases. So again, it's all about percent change, right? So if price goes up 20%, right, for this to be inelastic, the percent change in quantity demanded has to be less, right? I think I put the example of like 5%, right? That's pretty inelastic. Price goes up 20% for a good, and people respond by only buying 5% less. So again, if revenue is price times quantity, and this is a business, right, they're going to make a whole bunch of money if they decide to do this, right? If they raise the price 20% and people only cut down buying 5%, they're going to make more money. All right, their total revenue has to increase in this example, okay? All right, so what are some examples of inelastic demand? Gasoline is by far probably the best example of inelastic demand, right? Price changes and people don't really bat an eye, right? Milk, again, it has very inelastic demand. A lot of people don't really look at milk prices because there's not a lot of substitutes to milk, right? I don't know what else you're gonna put in your cereal or use for cooking and things like that, right? Milk is pretty essential. Chewing gum is pretty inelastic, and the reason chewing gum is pretty inelastic is, remember, it's all about a percent change in price. Like if you go to like the checkout, right, like a Target or something like that, right, and you're like, oh, throw some chewing gum in there, right, and you see your favorite chewing gum. If it goes up 5 cents, that's not really going to deter you from getting your favorite chewing gum, right? 5 cents is a very, very, very small percent of your income, right? So generally, goods that are very, very low priced, people will have inelastic demand for those goods. They're going to pretty much buy it anyway, right? Like I don't know what some like juicy fruit. That's the only gum I can think of. right? If I'm wanting juicy fruit and I go to the gum section, right, and juicy fruit goes from like $1 to $1.05, I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's too much. It's too much. I can't get juicy fruit, right? So again, low price items are going to be very, very inelastic in nature. Medical care again is inelastic, right? If you break your arm and you go to the hospital and they're like, hey, if we operate, we fix your arm, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. You're not going to be like, wow, that's a lot more than it used to be. You know what? I'm gonna hold off on getting my arm fixed, right? Price has changed too much. No, you're going to pay those higher prices again. That's why medical care is so expensive, right? Because they know that consumer demand is like limitless, right? People need medical attention, so hospitals, or medical care unchecked is definitely going to result in very, very high prices. Diapers are very inelastic, right? Because you need it now, right? If you have a baby and the baby's pooping everywhere, right? You go to the grocery store, right? And you're like, oh, I need to get some baby diapers, and baby diapers go up like 200% in price. You're not gonna be like, well, not gonna get baby diapers, right? You're still gonna get them anyway. So again, goods that are a necessity, goods that are very cheap, and goods that have no substitutes like gasoline are going to be very inelastic in nature, right? Toilet paper would be the same sort of idea, all right? So general characteristics of inelastic goods is a good that has not a lot of substitutes, right? Not a lot of goods that replace that good, right? So again, like gasoline, like what else are you going to put in your car to make it go? There's not any other really good, right? So you need to buy gasoline, so if the price of gasoline goes up, you're going to pay for it anyway. All right, so goods that have few substitutes like milk as well. Again, a necessity like baby diapers and toilet paper and medical care, right? You need to have it now. Small portion of your income was like chewing gum, required now rather than later, right? Like if you go to the store and like the price changes, you're not gonna be like, well, like I'll just wait and come back and see if price goes down next week, right? Generally, inelastic goods are goods that you need to have right now, and then it's gonna cause their coefficient to always be less than 1. All right, so how do you find the elasticity coefficient? It is the change in quantity over the change in price. And I like to tell students quarter pounder. All right, just always remember quarter pounder. All right, if you remember quarter pounder, you're going to remember to put Q over P. And if I give you a change in quantity or in a change in price, you'd be able to tell me just from that information, is the good inelastic or inelastic, right? So if we put these percents in this equation here, we put 5 divided by 20, right? 5 divided by 20 is 0.25. 0.25 is less than 1. If it's ever less than 1, it has to be inelastic. Because if it's less than 1, that means the percent change in price was greater than a percent change in quantity. And that's the definition of an inelastic good. Price changed a lot, and quantity changed a little bit, right? It doesn't matter if price goes up or down, right? So you'd be using absolute value for this, right? It doesn't matter if price goes up or down, quantity is going to do the opposite, right? So this would always be a negative number. So again, just use absolute value. But it's inelastic if it's less than 1, because if price changes and quantity changes by a lesser amount, again, that's what it means to have inelastic demand. Price change, and you are very unresponsive to that. So anything less than 1 is inelastic. Halfway there, people. So let's talk about elastic. Let's talk about goods that would cause consumers to be very responsive or very sensitive to a change in price. You guys all still here? It looks good. It looks like we haven't lagged in a while, right? Pretty good. So yeah, look at this gentleman, right? Cola is $1, and he's all about it, right? He buys 4 units of cola, and then price goes from $1 to $3, and he doesn't buy a single unit of cola, right? Again, why is that? Well, cola has a lot of substitutes, right? He probably just went and bought like Pepsi or Sprite or just some sort of other soda instead, right? So he has very elastic demand. He was very sensitive to a change in price. Again, another really good example of this from Simpsons, but we're not going to be able to show it. Okay, so elastic demand, right? Quantity is sensitive to a change in price. Now, if it's elastic demand, consumers are very responsive to a change in price. If price increases, quantity demand is going to fall a lot, right? If price decreases, quantity is going to increase a lot. People are going to be very, very responsive to a change in price. So, that demand curve is going to look very flat. And the reason it's going to look very flat, right, is because with price changes, quantity is going to have to change by a greater amount. Like in this case, if price goes up 10%, people bought 15% less quantity. So again, this is very, very important, right? If you are a business and demand for your good is elastic, and you try to make more money, so you increase the price of your good. And if you increase the price of your good, people buy a lot less. The percent change in quantity is greater than that percent change in price. Your revenue will have to fall. You will make less money, right? So you're going to very quickly realize that I need to decrease the price for my good. Because if I decrease the price a little bit, quantity is going to increase by a greater amount, right? Which obviously you would make more revenue in that scenario, right? So what are some examples? Again, like soda, like cereal, right? Think of any aisle at the grocery store where there's like an entire aisle, right? That's probably going to have very elastic demand. If price changes for one of those goods, I ain't paying it, right? I'm gonna buy anything else down that aisle, right? You know, there's so many other things I can buy. So any good that has a lot of substitutes would definitely be elastic. You know, a boat, right? Any sort of luxury item that you don't have to have, and it's a high price item as well, you're going to be very responsive to a change in price. Because think about, you know, if a boat goes from $25,000 to like $28,000, right? That's a pretty small percent change in price. However, that percent change in price is $3,000. $3,000 compared to your income is a pretty big percent of your income. So you're definitely gonna be pretty responsive if the boat that you want goes up in price by 3%. That's a lot. That's not like chewing gum, right? Chewing gum, if it goes up 3%, it might be 3 cents, and like who cares, right? But you know, 3% for a boat, that's a lot, right? So you're gonna be very responsive to a change in price. Same idea with real estate. Pizza has a lot of substitutes, right? Generally in any town, there's you know 8 to 10 more pizza restaurants out there. So you know if Hungry Howie's goes up in price, I'm just gonna buy Jets or Domino's or you know something else, right? Chicken, right, is relatively elastic, right? Because the price of chicken goes up, you'll substitute it out with beef or some sort of other meat product. And then gold is very elastic. Again, it's a luxury. You don't need it now, right? If you go to the store and you want to buy gold, like jewelry, right, and the price of that jewelry has gone up, you might just be like, all right, well, I'll come back next month, right? Because I don't need it now, all right? And I'll just wait for a price to change, to have a better deal, all right? I don't have to have it now. It's not like baby diapers. So again, elastic demand is one where price changes and people are going to be very responsive to that change in price. And it's going to occur if the characteristic of an elastic good is there's a lot of substitutes, right? It's a luxury. It's a huge percent of your income, like again, like real estate, like a boat, right? Or like a new car. That's a huge percent of your income, even if it's a small percent change in price. If you have a lot of time to decide you don't need it now, those goods are going to cause it to have elastic demand. So when we talk about the coefficient, right, it has to be a coefficient greater than 1. Again, quarter pounder, and that's what elastic means, right? If price changes by a little bit, quantity has to change by a greater amount. So again, if we put these values down here, 15 divided by 10, what is that, 1.5, right? 1.5 is greater than 1. The good is definitely elastic. And I hope that makes a lot of sense. Price changes a little bit, quantity changes by more. That's the definition of elastic. All right. Last slide is it elastic or inelastic, right? Beef, we've already talked about, is very elastic. Coefficient's definitely greater than 1. If you change the price of beef, people are going to be more responsive percent-wise and change in quantity than that change in price. Has elastic demand. Gasoline obviously has very inelastic demand. The coefficient's very, very close to 0. If price changes, people are still pretty much going to buy the same amount. Real estate obviously would be elastic. That's a huge percent change in your income, greater than 1. Medical care is inelastic. It's a necessity. You need it now. Electricity obviously is very inelastic, even more inelastic than gasoline, right? If your electrical bill goes up in price, you're not going to be like, all right, guys, all right, family, electricity kind of costs a lot. We're going to have to cut down. We're going to have to cancel our electricity, right? It's not going to happen, right? You're going to pay those higher prices. And then gold is very, very elastic because, again, it's not a necessity. If price goes up a lot, you're just not going to pay it. You're going to wait for price to perhaps go back down. All right? Now, there's some special ones that says, what about the demand for insulin, right, if you're diabetic, right? In that case, right, that demand would be perfectly inelastic. If you're diabetic, you need insulin to live. So if price goes from, $100 for, I don't know, I'm just making up prices. Price goes from $100 for, like your insulin to $200, right? It goes up by twice the amount. You're not going to be like, well, I'm not going to buy my insulin then, right? Price has gone up by too much. you're going to buy it no matter what. Now, the sad thing is you might not have the ability to buy it, right? Your willingness will be the same, right? You still need it, but your ability might not be there, which would be really, really sad, right? Again, that's why, insulin is regulated somewhat by the government, but I think all medical care has to be regulated more by the government, right? Because it has such inelastic demand, and price can change, and people still have to buy the same amount, right? And then obviously, if the percent change in price is exactly equal to that percent change in quantity, that would be called unit elastic, right? In other words, if you increase the price of your good by 50% and people buy exactly 50% less, you would actually make the same amount of money. Your total revenue would be unchanged, right? So that's just the idea of unit elastic. All right, people. I will not expect you to know the coefficients of unit elastic and perfect inelastic. I just want to show you examples of that. All I care about is this, right? That you know the difference between elastic and inelastic demand, right? You know the coefficient, right? If I give you a coefficient of 2, you would be able to tell me that's elastic. If I gave you a coefficient of 0.5, you'd be able to tell me that's inelastic. You'd be able to tell me the characteristics of elastic demand. You'd be able to tell me the characteristics of inelastic demand. And just, again, just like the definition, right? What does it mean to have elastic demand? Price changes and people's quantity demanded changes a lot more than that change in price. What does it mean to have inelastic demand? Price changes and people are unresponsive to a change in price. Their quantity demanded changes by a little amount, less than that percent change in price is the idea. Okay? All right, people. We made it. There was no internet problems, unless I'm just talking to myself. I don't know. But I will see you guys here in Google Meet. I'll see you guys, and you guys can take your 5-minute break. I'm going to go warm my coffee. So I'll see you guys there at 9:37. Okay? Oh, you guys are here. Did you know the double quarter pounder is just the half a pounder in disguise? I see what you did there. All right, people, I'll see you guys in Google Meet.